Imagine waking up to find your country's staple food, rice, has nearly doubled in price. A 5 kg bag now costs more than double what it was a year ago. This isn't a dystopian future. It's Japan in 2025. And as the nation grapples with this crisis, the agriculture minister's response?
I'm not buying rice, thanks to my supporters giving me plenty of it. I have so much of it in my house that I could even sell it. You know, receiving rice is also very troublesome.
A comment so out of touch, it led to public outrage and his eventual resignation. So how did things got so out of hand? Today we'll explore Japan's rice crisis and why it's not as simple as it seems. So, one of the main contributors is bad weather. A brutal combination of flooding and record-breaking heat dealt a heavy blow to rice yields in 2023. Climate change isn't coming, it's here. But nature wasn't the only thing feeding the fire. The shelves started emptying, not just from low supply, but high demand. After borders reopened and tourists returned in full force, social media led up with rice buying frenzies. Convenience store couldn't keep onigiri in stock.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
And here's where the cracks in the system really start to show. Japan's rice farmers aren't just struggling with weather, they are aging. The average rice farmer is over 70 years old. The next generation? Largely absent. Here's one comment in YouTube about that. Look at the ages of the people getting interviewed. They are all around the age of 70. This occupation is cook. To make things worse, even if someone wanted to grow more rice, they can't. For decades, Japanese paid farmers to not grow rice in an effort to avoid oversupply and keep price stable. This is called the Gentan policies, also known as Gentan Taisaku. It works by controlling domestic rice overproduction by paying farmers to reduce the area planted with rice. Farmers, especially in rural areas, supported such policies because they provide guaranteed stability in income and avoid devastating financial hits from oversupply. But here's the funny thing, most of the farmers being so old did not realize that the policies had changed and thought if they don't follow the rules, penalties might apply to them. And what does the government do? Well, their response has been a little bit more like a band-aid than a cure. Let's take a look at their solutions and how effective they really are. First up, remember the minister? He has been replaced, and hopefully a new face and promise of change can spark some hope to the nation. Following that, the government's emergency rice release. Sounds like a solid plan, right? Well, it should have been, but unfortunately, it didn't really work out the way the government hoped. The ministry has been selling the stockpiles to bidders who offered the highest price, but many argued that this method has kept prices high. So, to counter this, Koizumi, the new minister, said that the government will start by releasing 300,000 tons through non-bidding sales contract. The catch? The stockpile includes rice harvested from the past 4 years. Opposition politician Yuichiro Tamaki called it animal feed, while rice experts clapped back saying, all rice tastes just as good. So who's right? Depends on who you ask. But here's the real issue, distribution. A lot of this emergency rice never made it to store shelves. Instead, it got tied up in bulk sales and auction systems, keeping price stubbornly high. Well, at least the government's trying, right? Right? Here's the speculation. They are trying this hard because of the upcoming election. Shigeru Ishiba's approval plummeted to 27%. A staggering 87% of voters say the rice response was inadequate. For Prime Minister Ishiba, this rice crisis is more than just a supply issue. It's a political battlefield, a battlefield that could well decide his political future. The LDP under Prime Minister Ishiba is reluctant to implement broad tax relief. Why? Because Japan's national debt is already at record highs, and Ishiba's team argues that cutting food taxes or issuing payouts could trigger fiscal instability. In short, they are playing the long game, or at least that's what they claim. On the flip side, Komeito, the LDP's coalition party, isn't having it. They are pushing for an immediate cut to the food consumption tax and emergency cash payments to ease the burden on households. And the opposition, even bolder. The Democratic Party is calling for full-on tariff reform, abolishing the Gentan-like restriction, and direct financial aid to farmers and consumers. They argue that Ishiba's approach is protecting an outdated system that's crumbling under climate change and demographic collapse. That said, Ishiba's reluctance to tax relief isn't just economics, it's political. If he gives in now to tax cut, he risks being seen as desperate. If he were to abolish the Gentang policy, he also risks alienating rural farmers, which is a major LDP voting base. But let's zoom out a bit, because the rice crisis isn't just a fluke. It's a symptom of something large. Inflation, long stagnant in Japan, has finally arrived. Yes, I said finally because the government had been trying to spark inflation for years, and then it came, but not in a good way. Wages aren't rising fast enough to keep up. Essential goods like food are getting out of hand. Add to that an aging population, a declining rural workforce, and decades of overprotective policies, and suddenly a nation once known for its success is now quietly asking itself, are we alright? This isn't just a Japan story, it's a preview of what lies ahead for much of the developed world. Countries like China, South Korea, Taiwan, and Singapore, all facing record low fertility rates, may be heading down the same path. And yes, even the US isn't immune to this story, because while the rice shortage may feel far away, the underlying pressures, they are creeping in everywhere. The US is also seeing birth rates fall. In fact, 2023 marked one of the lowest fertility rates in American history. Fewer babies, more retirees, and a growing dependency ratio. Sounds familiar? And while immigration has helped balance the labor force for now, the cracks are starting to show. Aging infrastructures, inflation, worker shortages in essential sectors like farming, teaching, and healthcare. These are all signs of what's to come. So, what's next? Yes, Japan is facing a real crisis. The rice shortage is just one of many challenges, but it's also a signal of larger issues at play. Change is never easy, yet it also brings opportunities to innovate, to rethink how we approach food production, and to better protect the things that matter most. For Japan, this is a critical moment. It's a chance to reshape policies, invest in the future, and ensure that every citizen, whether a farmer, consumer, or policymaker, has a role to play in building a more resilient system. And while this may feel like a uniquely Japan issue, it's one that resonates far beyond Japan's border. Whether you're in Asia, Europe, or the US, we all face the growing challenges of climate change, shifting economies, and changing demographics. Whether it's the rice shortage or any other problems in our lives, it's about creating a system that works for everyone and finding ways to adapt. Well, that's it for today. Let me know the issues your country is facing in the comments below. And as always, have a great one and peace out.